but I have to just say, anyone who has doubted me over the past decade about this evil woman now needs to eat some humble pie.
My sources are saying that William no longer recognizes his brother. He basically says he doesn't know who this kid is. Harry has become petulant, he's become vengeful, he's very angry at all times, and William's just kind of like, hey, who the heck are you? And yes, they do blame Meghan.
Who does this? Who behaves like this?
Meghan Markle is threatening to sue the British royal family and Prince William if her titles are removed.
Harry has gotten with Meghan, and he now feels he has to protect her and, defend her at all costs, even when there's bad behavior involved.
Last Friday morning on the Isles of Scilly, the Prince of Wales walked into a hotel cafe, sat down, and went live on Heart Breakfast, reaching roughly 4 million listeners across the country. For nearly 3 hours, he talked about cream on scones, Aston Villa, and being a tired dad, and in all that time, he mentioned exactly one absent person, his grandmother, the late Queen Elizabeth II. Not his brother, not his sister-in-law, and 2 children, Archie and Lilibet, never came up once, not even close. 3 royal biographers, Tom Bower, Tom Sykes, and Andrew Loney, have spent the last 6 months putting it in writing, on the record, that this silence wasn't an accident.
Can we talk a little bit about Catherine? Because I just wanted to say how well she did in Italy. She's just come back. That was her first foray out there since her recovery.
Yeah.
How proud of you are.
So proud. I'm very, very proud. She's been amazing. She's been through so much in the last couple of years, particularly.
I can tell you for a fact that my sources that work under William and Catherine tell me that she is not a topic of conversation. She is not on their radar.
Oh, okay.
Harry and Meghan, what they do is not on their radar. They are not concerned about it.
It was a choice. Think about what he did say. He named his wife. He named all 3 of his kids. George, now boarding at Lambrook. Charlotte, completely obsessed with Taylor Swift. And Louis, who leaves jam fingerprints all over the back seat of the car. The Wales family named, photographed, accounted for, fully present. The Sussex family, the other half of his late mother's grandchildren, invisible. Now here's what makes this hit different. Heart Breakfast isn't some quiet corner of British radio. It's the biggest commercial breakfast slot in the country, 4.3 million listeners weekly, according to Global's latest Rajar figures, with the full Heart network pulling around 12.5 million. This wasn't a tucked-away interview on Radio 4 at odd hours. This was the chatty national breakfast show on the eve of a bank holiday, hosted by Amanda Holden and Jamie Theakston, broadcasting live from a Cornish cafe for the very first time in the station's history.
Because I know it can be a little bit tricky with names and that kind of thing, so just simply Amanda is absolutely fine.
Yeah. Yes, I'll lose my title this morning. I was hoping for Dame, but it's not come yet, William. I'll talk to you about that
His
later.
Royal Highness.
His Royal Highness. Oh my goodness.
Everyone at Kensington Palace who manages his schedule knew exactly how many ears were tuned in, and he picked this slot, this one specifically, to show up as his warmest, most personal, most fatherly self. He was charming, a little hoarse from Tuesday's win in Istanbul, casually ranking Aston Villa's chances, settling the cream versus jam debate by invoking his grandmother's authority, joking about being late for the school run, and revealing that the song he runs to on a rough day is You Got the Love by Candy Staton. There's a kitchen table honesty in that broadcast that commentators across the country picked up on almost immediately. He didn't need to say his brother's name to make you feel the absence. The family he painted, his wife, his 3 named children, the late Queen, the parents who once brought him to the Scillys as a boy, is a picture with a brother-shaped hole right in the middle of it. That hole has been there since 2018, and 3 biographers have now spent 6 months telling us that William has made a decision to leave it exactly that way. On the 8th of November last year, the Daily Beast dropped a column under the byline of Tom Sykes, a veteran royal correspondent who has been covering this family for the better part of 2 decades. The headline, Prince William plots bonfire of royal titles when he becomes king. Read that again. Bonfire of royal titles. According to Sykes, the Prince of Wales has decided to use letters patent in the early weeks of his reign to strip every non-working royal of their HRH and princely titles. Not 1, not 2. Every single one. The column names them.
Yes.
Good grippy cream. You can't beat clotted cream. Now, Prince William, what do you do? Think carefully.
I love that I'm the authority on that.
Here's the big debate. Scones or scones? Scones. I just feel like if you say it really fast, people are like, yeah, you said it the right way. But he's asked about this. And this is, again, one of those cute, quirky, safe morning show questions. What goes first, your clotted cream or your jam? I love the fact that he's definitely trying to distance himself as the expert on the debate. He brings up his grandmother.
Joked about being late for the school run and
Is this normally the time when you're doing the school run?
Yeah, I'm hoping that the children are on their way to school. They are listening this morning. I find music for me is so personal to how you're feeling and what you describe. So
Yeah.
it's almost like saying to me, like, who's your favourite person in the world? I can't answer that.
No, you
but
can't.
I love dance songs.
Prince Andrew, Sarah Ferguson, Princess Beatrice, Princess Eugenie, Prince Harry, his wife, and even Archie and Lilibet. Now, royal correspondents float trial balloons all the time, but here's where it gets serious. The very next day, Buckingham Palace said nothing. Kensington Palace said nothing. Sarah Ferguson said nothing. Tom Sykes was not sued. The column was never pulled, never corrected. It just sat there unchallenged. And then came the detail that made everyone pay attention. On the 30th of October, 3 weeks before Sykes even published, the king had already quietly stripped Prince Andrew of his HRH and princely titles through letters patent. The exact mechanism Sykes described wasn't theory. It had already been used on the most senior family member it could possibly be tested on. Then, in May this year, just 6 days before William's heart breakfast appearance, Sykes published a second column, this one about Project Thor, the rumoured reconciliation between Charles and Harry. Sykes, who had been quietly skeptical, wrote that coordinated messages now coming out of both Harry's office and the King's office had pushed the story past speculation and into something verifiable.
He's very like the late Queen, his beloved grandmother in that way. It's been instilled in him by her. All those afternoon teas that they were taking at Windsor Castle when he was a boy at Eton, the Queen was teaching him what's going to happen. She was showing him, this is what you do when you take over the throne. And William has learned from the best that there was, and that was the late Queen Elizabeth II. And it is always that duty and country comes before anything, before even family.
2 offices coordinating, and William III office in this story completely silent. On the 26th of March this year, Bonnier Books UK published Betrayal, the new Tom Bower biography, and the long-awaited follow-up to his 2022 book Revenge. For anyone new to this story, Tom Bower is the investigative biographer who has spent nearly 50 years going after the rich and powerful. His Robert Maxwell book put a publishing empire's finances on trial. His Bernie Ecclestone book reshaped Formula One's accountability. He is not a tabloid gossip. He is a forensic, long-form biographer whose sources are lawyered to within an inch of their lives. Betrayal contains one chapter, one single devastating chapter, about how the Prince of Wales intends to handle his brother once he is king. And Bower writes, William was taking no prisoners. Once he was crowned as king, his brother might well show no mercy to him and Meghan. He might even strip Archie and Lilibet of their titles.
But when William does take to the throne, we're going to see a much harder line being taken by him, a much harder approach. Prince William is a man who does not suffer fools gladly. At the moment, Charles has made Harry a councillor of state.
Terrible.
It's a problem. So what William's going to have to do, and this is what I think William will do when he takes the throne, now this will obviously hinge on Harry still being married to that woman, Meghan Markle. So this all depends on that. If Harry is still married to Meghan, William will strip the titles.
That is one sentence from a man whose sources include serving and former senior aides to both the King and the Prince of Wales, and it may be the most consequential thing written about the British monarchy this entire year. Bower's chapter also gives us the exact moment William reportedly made his decision. According to his sourcing, William decided not to invite his brother to his eventual coronation on the same afternoon. Harry was excluded from the pre-funeral Buckingham Palace reception for the late Queen, a gathering of 1,000 guests. Not last week, not last year, 3 years ago, and Bauer's verdict on what caused all of this, just as concrete. Queen Camilla, according to a known palace insider documented in Bauer's book, reportedly said that the Duchess of Sussex had brainwashed Harry. That is Camilla's reported language, documented in the book, and the palace has not taken it to court. The book is published, distributed, and selling. But Bauer doesn't stop there. He pulls on the financial thread too.
When Charles was really resisting any action against Andrew, and William was really saying, we have to let the police in, we have to let the police do their worst, we have to let, we have to remove all the protection from him, we have to kick him out of the tent so that he's not part of us, and if that means that he ends up in a court cell or a jail, we'll have to see how the cards fall. People close to Charles were telling me at the time, it's all very well to say that when you're not the king, but when you're king, things look a little different.
His sources say the Sussexes need roughly $3 million a year just to stay afloat, and on every front, Netflix, Spotify, retail ventures, the income, in his words, is drying up. A royal title isn't just prestige, it's a brand asset. Strip the title, and you strip the asset. The third biographer in this story is Andrew Lowney, a historian who has spent the last 20 years writing about the lesser royals, the ones who never make the official Christmas card. His book, entitled, published last November, focused on Prince Andrew, but carried a long second half on the wider succession. In an Australian Woman's Day exclusive, Lowney was asked straight up, no caveats, what William would do to Andrew when he becomes king. Lowney's answer? William will do it alone, and probably get rid of Harry as well. Two non-working royals, removed in the same legal motion. In a follow-up News Nation interview, Lowney went even further, saying, William's view is we're becoming irrelevant.
From a source of hers close to the palace, directly addressing the persistent talk of a Project Thor between Harry and the royal family, was that no one ever wants to see Meghan again. And who can blame them? Paula reports from her source, I spoke to one of my very good sources, and no, there is no Project Thor. The reason why is that yes, the king would like to see his son and his grandson. No one ever wants to see Meghan again, but they understand Harry is fully untrustworthy.
He will strip the titles. But if Harry's divorced from Meghan by that point, which he could be, who knows? It's a long time yet in the future. But if he's divorced by that point, William may take a different approach, a less harsh approach. Say, okay, Harry's now away from that woman. I'm going to try and repair my relationship with him. It'll take time, but let's bring him back into the royal family. But this is at the moment, we're talking a long way. This is all hypothetical if Harry is no longer with Meghan. If he is still with Meghan, bye-bye to Harry and Meghan. No more Duke and Duchess. That will be gone.
People are just laughing at us. The we he's talking about is the institution itself, the monarchy William will one day inherit, the one he believes is being dragged into disrepute by the very relatives he refused to name on the radio. And Lowney isn't the only senior royal voice saying it out loud. Sunday Times royal editor Roya Nicker, widely understood to be the journalist that senior royals trust most when it comes to carefully placed leaks, described William in a Times radio segment with words worth hearing. Precisely. William, she said, is someone who does hold a grudge. He does choose sides. If someone picks the other side, he remembers that. He remembers that. He remembers Oprah, the bridesmaid dress fitting before the wedding, the apartment dispute at Kensington over Catherine, the brainwashing language Bauer documented, the pre-funeral reception his own brother was shut out of. The Prince of Wales has a long memory, and the biographers have noticed. Last Friday morning at the Park Cafe, 4 million listeners noticed too.
Anger and resentment, it might be there on the part of William towards Harry. How angry is William about Harry, do you think?
Extremely angry. That's why I'm saying he loves him as a brother, but does he like behaviour that Harry has displayed in the last several years? Dramas. And as I say, William's a man who gets on with it. He's not into navel gazing, Mark, or psychobabble language, which we hear coming out of Hollywood, which has filled Harry's head with nonsense.
Now picture the royal chessboard this week, because it's not a board with one king, it's a board with two. On one side, you have the king. He held a 50-minute tea with his younger son at Clarence House on the 10th of September last year, the first father-son meeting in 19 months. the first since his cancer diagnosis went public. According to reporting from the Daily Mail, Now to Love, and the Daily Beast, the King's Deputy Private Secretary Theo Rycroft, a former British Embassy Deputy Head of Mission in Paris, married to the Honourable Flora Astor, brought in specifically for difficult assignments, has been openly named by senior royal correspondents as the architect of what Richard Eden at the Daily Mail called Project Thor. Rycroft is reported to have told colleagues that the family situation had reached a point where it was, in his words, time to knock their heads together. The King's Communications Secretary, Tobin Andrea, met Harry's then Chief of Staff, Meredith Maines, at the Royal Overseas League last summer. This is a king dealing with cancer, clearly in pain over the rift, working through senior aides to quietly chip away at the wall between them.
Harry and Meghan had a success or two, but then a ton of failure after that. The Netflix thing didn't go as well as I thought it would. Their futures in Hollywood are looking quite bleak at this point. They have a ton of things, quote unquote, in development, but nothing in production.
I suspect, Charles gave undertakings to his mother to take care of Andrew. I suspect the deal was done to get Andrew out of Royal Lodge, and that may have involved, taking care of the daughters. And there may be concerns about keeping them in the tent still, rather than being a loose cannon outside. The one way they can control both Andrew and Sarah Ferguson is through the future of the daughters. So there may be something in this, but I think William realizes the reputational damage.
And then came a moment that stopped people in their tracks. On the very same day, the King visited Golders Green to meet 2 Jewish men who had been targeted in an anti-Semitic attack the previous month. Prince Harry's essay on anti-Semitism appeared in the New Statesman. Same day, columnist Tom Sykes called the Sussex office to ask whether the timing was coordinated. The office denied it, but conceded the piece had gone to print, in Sykes's reported phrasing, several days ago. That doesn't rule out coordination. It just explains the editorial timeline. So, to be clear about what's happening on that side of the chessboard, the King is softening, his aide is brokering, and both Harry's office and the King's office are putting out parallel messages on the exact same day. Now look at the other side, the Prince of Wales. That same week, while the essay landed and the King held that hand in Golders Green, William did one thing in public. He cheered Aston Villa to a Europa League win in Istanbul on Wednesday. Then he flew home, spent Friday morning on heart breakfast, and named absolutely no one from his brother's household. Not in that 4 million listener breakfast slot. Not during his aisles of silly engagements that afternoon. Not in the news cycles that followed. The King is reaching. The Prince is not, and the biographers have already told us exactly why.
Disappointment has got to a point that he's almost resigned to their, shall we say, unroyal-like behaviour that they have displayed over the last several years. He sighs, he rolls his eyes. He's just fed up of it all. He really is. But I think William feels like much of the country does about them. But the difference is for Prince William is the danger that his brother Harry and his wife Meghan Markle present to him.
William, per Bauer, has decided not to forgive. Per Sykes, he has decided to legislate. Per Loney, he intends to do it alone. And before anyone says this is overreading a radio appearance, this family has never communicated through press releases. The signals travel through absences. The grandmother stopped wearing her brooch. The father did not invite the son. The brother does not say the name on heart breakfast. That's how this institution has always worked. That's how a culture built on the stiff upper lip delivers its verdict not through what is said, but through what is deliberately left out. You don't need a statement. You just need to count the names. He named one absent person. He refused to name 4. Across 3 hours of his most charming, most fatherly, most warm self, every single gesture was aimed at his wife, his children, and the late grandmother who put cream on first.
No.
So William blames Meghan.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This trouble all started when Meghan married Harry. They were rowing in the build-up to the wedding. Meghan upset Princess Catherine, William's wife, over the row to do with the children, the bridesmaids. It was a silly tiff, but William saw then Meghan's behaviour And Meghan was dangerous. She was going to be a danger to the Waleses, and she was going to cause problems and dramas and necessary.
The 4 names he didn't say are the exact 4 names that 3 biographers have told us he intends to make less royal the moment he takes the crown. There is no other reading of this. There's the polite version where everyone keeps saying, perhaps it was nothing, and then there's the version where you trust your own ears. I trust mine. I think you should trust yours. So here's what I want you to hold on to, not just today, but next month, next year, and especially the morning you wake up to a news bulletin saying the king is gone and a new king has signed his first letters patent. Remember this radio interview. Because what happened last Friday morning on the Isles of Scilly wasn't just a charming celebrity appearance on a bank holiday breakfast show. It was a statement delivered with a smile, a villa scarf, and a scone. Across nearly 3 hours, the future king of the United Kingdom and 15 Commonwealth realms named one absent person his grandmother and refused to name 4. That's not an accident.
The difference is for Prince William is the danger that his brother Harry and his wife Meghan Markle present to him for when he does take the throne, because his father, King Charles, is insistent that Harry remains a Councillor of State. Now, some viewers might say, what's a Councillor of State? What does that mean? It means that if something happens to William when he's king, Harry would have the powers to act on behalf of him. That's not something Prince William's going to want to have happen, is he now, really? And that's not something the country's going to want to have happen as well. So I think while his father's still alive, his dad's not a well man, as we know. King Charles has got cancer, we all know that. And so I think William's just taking the soft, gentle approach right now. And okay, Dad, that's your choice. I get it. Harry's your son still. You are going to have that feeling that you want him back in the royal family.
That's architecture. William has spent years inside an institution that does not make unintentional gestures on 4 million listener national broadcasts. Every word, every pause, every name spoken and unspoken on that broadcast was a brick in a wall that 3 biographers have now spent 6 months mapping in extraordinary detail. He spoke warmly about his wife recovering quietly, away from the noise, and praised her with words that were simple but landed hard. An amazing mum, an amazing wife, and literally, our family couldn't cope without her. That is not press office language. That is a husband speaking from somewhere real, and 4 million people felt it. He talked about Charlotte's full-blown Taylor Swift obsession. He accidentally let slip the boarding school detail about his eldest, a slip royal correspondence immediately clocked and filed. He laughed about Louis leaving jam fingerprints across the back seat of the car like it was the most normal thing in the world. He appealed to his grandmother's authority to settle the cream versus jam debate once and for all. He told the nation the song that carries him through a hard run.
On Wednesday night, of course, Aston Villa won the Europa League final, and it made me excited watching it, seeing how excited you were.
Yeah, well, I try and remind myself that I am a football fan and I'm just going there to enjoy myself, but then I see the following day and I realize actually a lot of people are watching you. Stop doing that.
So I get the sense that he is serious, that he forgets that he wants to just be there as a football fan and forgets that the next day, this game they normally wouldn't be talking about, because there's such a fun video of the Prince of Wales reacting wildly to a win or a score. I hope I grabbed the video. Maybe I didn't, though. There's a video of him as the ball is getting closer to the goal. His eyes get wide and then he jumps up out of his seat. And it's so fun to see that just, carefree reaction.
Every single one of those details painted a portrait of a man who is present, emotionally present, domestically present, fully accounted for within his family. And right in the middle of all that warmth, the kind of warmth that feels genuinely human rather than performed, sat something else entirely. A silence. Not an awkward silence. Not a forgotten name. A precise architectural silence shaped exactly like a brother, a sister-in-law, a young nephew, and a young niece. 4 people. Not mentioned once across 3 hours of live national radio. Now, here's why that matters more than most people are letting themselves admit. This is not the first silence. It is the latest in a sequence that biographers have been documenting in real time, And when you line them up, the pattern is not subtle. Tom Bower's sourcing places the original decision point 3 years ago, the afternoon of the pre-funeral reception for the late Queen, a gathering of 1,000 people from which Harry was excluded.
On the part of William regarding his father, he loves his father, he admires his father. But Charles has been a lot weaker on Harry. We had the Clarence House face-to-face, didn't we, in September of last year, which I think was a mistake because it's more material for the next documentary, more material for Spare 2. This time it's personal.
Look at the amount of disrespect this would be to William, because that is his mother as well. You know, Meghan does not care about her connection to this family. If you are in close proximity, she is going to steal it to help herself, but not consider, you know, how disrespectful it is to take from someone that is like in your family, so to speak, that you don't even care about doing the right thing to get permission or to see if it would be okay. You just want to run with it. And that's what I find so distasteful about this woman. She just does things that are so not the way things are done.
Bower writes that William made his decision about the coronation that same afternoon, not after Spare, not after the Netflix documentary, that afternoon. Which means everything that came after every interview, every public statement, every carefully worded silence has been operating inside a decision that was already made. Tom Sykes published his Bonfire of Titles column last November, and neither palace moved to correct it. The mechanism it described let as patent, stripping HRH status from non-working royals, had already been tested on Prince Andrew 3 weeks before the column even ran. Andrew Lowney, writing about the wider succession, said plainly that William would probably get rid of Harry as well, in the same legal motion. 3 writers, 3 separate publishing houses, 3 separate sets of sources, and not one lawsuit, not one formal denial, not one palace statement saying this is not accurate. The silence from the palaces around the reporting mirrors the silence on the radio. It communicates without committing. And then there is Roya Nikkar's assessment, the Sunday Times royal editor, who is widely understood to be the journalist senior royals trust most when they want something, said carefully.
I'm really glad it went really well, and she wanted to go and do lots of research. She spends God knows how much time now looking through all the paperwork. She's a proper pro on early years, and so most evenings I'm fighting to get past in the bedroom all the paperwork that she's got lined up ready to read. So I'm so pleased it went well for her, and I think she came back buzzing.
So it's a lovely insight, isn't it, to their life and how Catherine really does her work even in the bedroom. But they discuss the serious aspect of it, how tough the cancer diagnosis was, where William emotionally admitted the family just couldn't cope without her.
She described William as someone who holds a grudge, who chooses sides, and who specifically remembers Oprah, that interview. That particular interview years later, still sitting in the room every time the subject of reconciliation comes up. When a journalist with that level of access uses those words on the record, she is not editorializing. She is reporting what she has been told by people inside the building. So now place all of that next to the other side of the chessboard, the king dealing with a serious illness, working through his deputy private secretary Theo Rycroft, whose reported instruction to colleagues was that it was time to knock their heads together, is actively trying to close the gap. His communications secretary met Harry's chief of staff at the Royal Overseas League. Harry's anti-Semitism essay in The New Statesman and the King's visit to Golders Green landed on the same day, with both offices in the picture. Project Thor, whatever its final shape, is real enough for Sykes to move it from rumour into verified territory. The King is reaching across. The Prince of Wales is not moving an inch, and based on everything Bower, Sykes and Lowney have published, that is not going to change.
William's a practical man. Okay, my dad's got cancer. It's sad, but I've got to get on with it. My wife's got cancer. It's horrible, but I've got to get on with it. I'm going to be the king. I've got to get on with it. That is what I have to get on with. He's not there saying, why me? This is awful. Why is all these horrible things in life happening to me? But he doesn't think like that because he knows it's happening to millions of people around the world. William is a doer. He's not a taker, he's a giver, he's a doer. He gets on with
And
the
he's
job.
not a victim.
What makes last Friday so significant is the setting. This was not a formal engagement. This was not a prepared speech at a state occasion where silences can be explained away by protocol. This was Heart Breakfast, the warmest, most casual, most human format British commercial radio offers. Amanda Holden and Jamie Theaxton don't do geopolitics. They do banter. They do family stories. They do the kind of easy conversation where names come up naturally because there's no reason to hold them back. And in that environment, specifically in that environment, the future king held 4 names back, with complete consistency across 3 hours of live broadcasting. That takes deliberate effort. That is not an oversight. The last time William and his brother appeared together in public without visible tension between them, they were 2 boys in dark suits, walking behind their mother's coffin through the streets of London. A moment the whole world watched and felt and has never fully let go of. The Queen, who stepped out of the Abbey that day to receive the coffin, chose, the very next morning, to break centuries of protocol and bow to a princess who was gone.
Would it be overstating it to say that William does not like his brother?
He doesn't like his brother's behaviour, right, in the way that his brother's acted.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the way he's been. He's disgusted by him. He's appalled.
Wow.
He's let down by him. He's angry. He's still a very, very, very angry man. Tries to roll his eyes. But a lot of this comes down, Mark, to Meghan Markle. She is the fly in the ointment. And William believes that if Meghan wasn't on the scene, this would never have happened.
That queen, the grandmother, the one who put cream on first, the one whose authority settled the scone debate on a Cornish radio show nearly 3 decades later, is the only absent person William named on Friday. She gets the name. The brother does not. The sister-in-law does not. The children do not. That contrast is the whole story. The grandmother, who is gone, is spoken of with warmth and named with ease. The brother, who is alive, who shares the same parents, who walked the same corridors, who carries the same loss, is treated as someone who does not exist in the vocabulary of a 3-hour national broadcast. That is not grief. That is not protocol. That is a verdict. 3 biographers spent 6 months telling us this verdict was coming. They named the mechanism letters patent. They named the timeline early in the reign. They named the scope every non-working royal. They named the source of the decision a single afternoon 3 years ago. And then last Friday morning, the man at the center of all that reporting sat in a cafe on the Isles of Scilly, charmed 4 million people, revealed his running playlist, laughed about jam fingerprints, and confirmed every single word of it, not by saying anything, but by saying nothing. That is how this institution has always communicated. Not through announcements, through absences, the brooch that stops being worn, the invitation that does not arrive, the name that does not come up across 3 hours of live radio. The message travels in the gap, not in the statement, and if you have been paying attention to this family for any length of time, you already know how to read the gap. So here is the question I want you to sit with and bring to the comments. Was the silence last Friday a kindness? Was William deliberately keeping his brother out of a public forum to avoid escalating a private war? Was he protecting something that might still be salvageable behind closed doors, while Project Thor quietly does its work? Or was the silence the verdict final, public, delivered with a smile to 4 million people on the eve of a bank holiday, with 3 biographers already in print to confirm what it meant? Drop your answer below. Tell me which side of that argument you land on, and tell me why. I read every single comment, and this community consistently brings the sharpest analysis in the comments section of any royal channel I have seen. If this breakdown gave you something real to think about, hit the like button. It genuinely changes how many people this reaches, and the people this reaches care deeply about how power actually moves inside this family. Share it with someone in your life who follows the royals, not because they need to be convinced of anything, but because this conversation deserves more voices in it. And if you are not subscribed yet, now is the moment, because what is coming next takes everything we covered today and goes deeper into the machinery. The next chapter drops in the next few days, and we are walking through what letters patent actually do in legal and constitutional terms, what they cannot do without Parliament's involvement, and what the historical precedents tell us about how monarchs have used them before and what the consequences looked like. This is not a simple story, and it is not going to resolve in a single news cycle. It is a slow, documented, sourced, legally specific process that has already begun, and you will want to understand exactly how it works before the morning it becomes headlines. See you in the next one, where the silences get read with the same care as the speeches, where 3 biographers and 6 months of publishing count as a chorus, and where the names that don't get said carry the heaviest part of the story.